MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming.
Hey, welcome. This is a MedBix Webcast. I'm the host. My name is Ramana Annamaraju. We have a really great program today, and this is the MedBix Webcast with the interdisciplinary kind of things. I talk about mathematics and physics and healthcare related to healthcare, and art. And today we are going to talk about art a little bit technology, a little bit of everything. Today we are going to talk about the subject. Before that, I'm going to talk with one of our distinguished guests, Dr. Paul DeChant. He is a doctor and he is a physician, and also he's author of the book is called Preventing Physician Burnout. How to preventing physician burnout. He is a champion for the he is very concerned about this whole thing about healthcare professionals burnout. So let me bring to the table Dr. Paul DeChant. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast.
Hey, Ramana, so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Dr. DeChant, give me some background of yours. I know some of the background, but tell me what is your background is a little bit, then we go from there.
Sure. So I'm a family physician. I trained at University of Oregon Health Science Center and did my med school there, family medicine residency in Colorado, in Greeley, about an hour north of Denver. And I've been around a number of different places. I did a year of ER in a small hospital in Colorado, 9 years with the Palo Alto Medical Clinic as a family physician in Fremont, California. During that time, started to get into some management as well. Had an opportunity to move back to Colorado and work in Breckenridge as the small town family doctor and the ER doctor at the base of the ski hill there. We were there for 8 years raising our small children. It was a pretty great experience. And then had the opportunity, I got my MBA while I was there, and I had the opportunity to work at Geisinger in central Pennsylvania, a very progressive health system. Was there for a few years when Palo Alto asked me to come back there and start up new offices for them, which I did in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then got an opportunity to become the CEO of a 300 physician group out in the Central Valley of California, the Modesto and Stockton area. During that time, I was really fortunate. I got to lead this 300 physician group through a transformation focused on returning joy to patient care. And we actually changed the management system and the culture to empower and align the clinicians so that people could do the work that they wanted to do while helping each other out and really working together. At the end of that time, we actually got rated as the top performer among 170 medical groups across the state of California 2 years in a row. We weren't even expecting, we didn't even know they were doing the surveys. And the first day it was Consumer Reports was running it. One of my doctors came in, held up the magazine and said, "Hey, look, we got rated best in the state." During that time, we also improved our physician satisfaction from the 45th up to the 87th percentile on the American Medical Group's provider satisfaction survey. So we knew we were onto something. I had hired a consulting group to help us do that work. And then I joined that group. And for the last 8 years, I've been working with health systems around the country, particularly with their senior leaders, helping them understand what they can do so we can address the root cause drivers of burnout and really make healthcare workplaces healthier places for clinicians to work.
That you said that something you changed it. Let me bring you, I don't know why. I am not. Okay, now I got it. So what that in the Central Valley you changed it to some culture and then improve the customer experience and the consumer experience and consumer satisfaction. What are the things you did in the to improve that kind of experience and get that kind of ratings?
Yeah. So, I got into leadership and management because I got frustrated when I was practicing as a physician and I knew things weren't going right in my office. I wanted to fix them and I wanted the autonomy to do that. And I spoke up and got put on committees and all that. And there are a lot of things everybody works on improvement and trying to change processes to make the work better. When I became the CEO of that group, all of a sudden I had 300 doctors, all of whom really deserved to and wanted to have their own autonomy to make changes their own way. But that kind of worried me like, this we could fall apart from entropy if everybody was doing their own thing completely differently. So we developed a process of in each office, people collaborated in that office to make changes, to identify what went wrong when something didn't go right, what could they test to make a change, and then make that improvement. And we had that same process working in each office. But of course, what happened in one office, particularly specialty to specialty, would be different. So the needs of an ophthalmologist were very different from an orthopedist or a pediatrician. But the concepts of something's not gone right, we have a good idea about how to fix it. Let's test it and just continue to refine. We created really oriented all of our leaders towards that focus. One of the ways I would describe this is to ask the question, who's the most important person in this medical group? And of course, the most important person is the patient, because without a patient, we have no reason for for us to come to work, for the organization to exist. And then the question is, well, what's the most important thing we do for that most important person? And it's a healing interaction that takes place between any caregiver and the patient, whether that person is a doctor or a nurse or a receptionist who greets the patient at the front door or a lab technician. Every time we interact with a patient, it's a chance for that healing interaction to relieve some pain and suffering, to alleviate some anxiety or worry, to do a procedure that makes a difference, or to just educate people to be healthier. That's the most important thing that happens in every healthcare organization. For leaders, our job, we're not doing the most important job. The people on the front lines are doing that most important job. Our job is to make sure our people on the front lines have what they need to do their job well. And when we get that mindset, that's when we can really drive that change.
You mentioned the entropy. I did a programming on entropy actually in healthcare. So there are more entropy is a more ways to go bad everything. You have to entropy is evil. That's it can make you things bad. You're what you were doing, that is in the every step of the way. You're improving the patient's experience with engagement with everybody across the spectrum. That's one of the main drivers of the satisfaction, I think.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
what are there is a new report came out. I wanted to show you the report a little bit. I will show you. That is a really depressing report from Medscape report. It is that it's almost 60 to 80% of the people, either they're kind of were depressed, or they're not the anxiety. And then all the primary care physicians, among all the physicians, the primary care physicians are the ones that they are going things are there, sir, depressed. What are the things you think? What is going on in the healthcare professional world? They to get that kind of report, and a sad report.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Ramana, that ratio, it's gotten worse. The degree of burnout has gotten worse in the last couple of years since the pandemic has begun to wane away. But it's been bad for many years, and it's really sad because being a doctor should be one of the best professions in the world. We people come to us and share with us their hopes and dreams. We get to do procedures that save lives or alleviate pain and suffering. We get to mentor young people as they're preparing to become our colleagues. We get to do research and work on innovation to make healthcare better. And yet, the 50 to 70% of doctors are burned out. And it doesn't make sense when you think about the great opportunities until you actually follow us into the exam room or into the clinic or into the hospital and see we're not spending much of our time. About a third of our time is spent on that professionally fulfilling activity. 2/3 of the time is spent on administrivia, like typing data into the electronic medical record or fighting with an insurance company about prior authorization or dealing with just huge amounts of extraneous information that just gets sent to us as though we're secretaries just having to deal with all of it on our own. It's that burden that really drives people crazy. And in fact, what burnout is, and it's been defined this way by experts as well as by the World Health Organization, it's an occupational phenomenon. It's a problem where the workplace is overwhelming people who are otherwise incredibly resilient. Most doctors, just to get into medical school, you have to be resilient. To get through training, you have to be resilient. It's not a lack of resilience. The problem is the workplace, not the workers. But that workplace is just rife with these challenges. And so burnout is really a manifestation in an individual of that dysfunction in the workplace.
ICD, there was in Sweden or Switzerland, I forgot the exact country. They classified burnout as an ICD code. Actual code is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is that in the United States is not recognized as burnout as a classified disease, right?
Well, we use the same ICD codes, and it's actually burnout through WHO and the ICD is it's not a final diagnosis. It's a contributing factor. And when it manifests in three key ways. Many people are familiar with exhaustion. We've given everything we've got. There's nothing left to give. That leads to this sense of self-protection, which manifests as depersonalization or cynicism. We start to protect ourselves from our patients. We protect ourselves from our organization. And when we put those two things together, exhaustion and distancing or cynicism, we start to feel as though we're not really making a difference. We're feeling ineffective, which in many ways I think is the saddest of the three, because you can be in a situation where the patient and the doctor are together in one room, the patient finding great satisfaction and value in that interaction, and the doctor wondering, am I making any difference at all right now? Two people together in one room having completely different experiences while they're interacting, oftentimes in very deeply connected ways.
So administrative factors is one of the biggest burdens, you said. What are the other burdens they usually go through? More vacations or more interaction with the other team members? What are the other factors that are affecting that burnout?
Yeah. So, one of the great pleasures we both live in the San Francisco Bay Area. One of the great pleasures of being here, there's a lot of really interesting people here, one of whom is Christina Masloch. She's a professor emerita from UC Berkeley, and she's one of the pioneers in researching on burnout. She's defined 6 drivers of burnout. The first one is work overload. Now, there's just too much to do. We work in a chaotic, time-pressured environment with information overload. That often leads to a sense of a lack of control. And control is an important value to physicians. Why we give up the decade of our 20s to get the training we need so we can take control when there's a situation where people want us to do that. In fact, it's one of those intangible rewards we look for when we commit ourselves to this profession. And that insufficient rewards is actually the third driver of burnout that Masloch identified. We also look for professional recognition and collegiality. The doctors and nurses are great people. It's fun to hang around together, but it's getting harder and harder these days. In fact, we're seeing breakdown of community, which Masloch defined as the fourth driver of burnout. People don't get together. Doctors are either practicing in an office or in a hospital. They're rarely all coming together. Even when they have time over lunch, they may be sitting in the same room, but they're interacting with their computer rather than interacting with each other. When we're disconnected and stressed, we start to wonder if we're being treated fairly. There's so many ways things have changed that the job we're doing now is not the job we signed up for when we first joined the profession. It doesn't feel fair. And there's additional lack of fairness. Absence of fairness is the fifth driver of burnout. For the majority now of doctors, I'm not a good example of someone who's at risk for this other particular type of unfairness. I'm an old straight white guy, but so many doctors now are judged not by the quality of their contribution, but by things they have no control over, such as their gender, their race, their country of origin, or their sexual orientation. And they should not be judged by that. That is unfair, and it creates microaggressions that really do create challenges and increase burnout for people who are dealing with those challenges. The sixth and final driver of burnout is values conflicts. If my values don't align with the values of my organization, or I've been through a situation which happened in COVID where you either had to witness or actually act in ways that violated your values simply because the demand was greater than we could possibly meet with the supplies we had. And so there was issues around who got which care, all those sorts of things. So those are six drivers of burnout: overload, lack of control, insufficient rewards, breakdown of community, absence of fairness, and conflicting values. Now, the other thing that Maslow identified, which really starts to pull this all together, is that work overload is what drives the exhaustion. And when we stop and think about that, this is where there's so much opportunity to actually create efficiencies in the way that we take care of patients that can then reduce that burden on doctors and allow us to focus on our patient rather than focus on all that administrivia. And in order to achieve that, it turns out the other five drivers of burnout: control, reward, fairness, values, community, those drive cynicism. And those have to do with how we manage and lead, whether we lead a group as small as 2 or 3 people that are in our close circle of how we care for a patient, or if you're a leader of a health system with 20 or 30,000 employees. How you lead drives cynicism. And that really has a big impact, because we can lead with empowerment and alignment and create great engagement. Or, like I saw when I first became CEO of that 300 physician group, that it was the worrying is about about things coming apart. It's very tempting to go to top-down command and control management. Just tell people what to do, and that does not help. That actually creates a lot of the stresses and problems that we see today.
How much this burnout is affecting their family and the friends?
Oh, so when people burn out, it doesn't just stay at work. It's the person. It's burnout manifests in the individual, the dysfunction of the workplace, but they bring that manifestation home with them. It's impossible to just turn it off when you walk out the door. So at home, we see people who are depressed, exhausted, turning to substance abuse, seeing family dysfunction, seeing suicide. There's approximately 400 physician suicides a year, essentially losing 2 medical school classes each year to suicide.
Medscape is reporting that suicide among physicians is higher than a general population. That is a surprise to me, in general. That is
Oh no, but it's true, and it's worse. It's a higher rate for women physicians than for men physicians.
because of they take care of the families and they back home, back at family
Exactly.
and taking care of children
Exactly.
and all those
Yeah,
things.
yeah. The burden, the burden on women physicians never doesn't stop. It's at work, and even at work, for whatever reason in our society, either people are expecting a woman physician to be more empathetic than a male physician, or women are generally caring. It's again bad stereotype perhaps, but oftentimes are more caring than male physicians and carry that burden with them. They'll spend more time with the patient. Now, women physicians also get better outcomes than male physicians do, particularly in primary care. Well, and not just in primary care, actually in surgery and procedural specialties as well. There's how important it is to connect with patients on a personal level and how much impact that has on the ultimate outcomes.
So this is such a grave situation now with this kind of burnout. Is there any federal government or state or counties are doing some kind of a strategy they have, or there is an absence of complete absence of strategy there?
Oh no, actually, good question. And yes, there are strategies being pursued on multiple levels. Actually in the Congress, when COVID first hit in New York City, the first wave that came through, and honestly, I wasn't there personally myself, but my daughter was in residency there in a safety net hospital in the Bronx of New York City. She got COVID and still to this day suffers from long COVID as a result. So it is, it's deep, it's important, it's personal. But one of the cases that actually hit the national news was an ER physician who was the medical director of the Allen Hospital at the northern tip of Manhattan. She got COVID and had to be out for a couple of weeks. Wanted to get back so badly because all her colleagues were so overstressed from the overwork. She came back. She knew she wasn't able to function well. She got very depressed. Ultimately, she took her life. Her name was Lorna Breen, and now her sister and brother-in-law made a decision to not let her death go in vain, and they started a foundation, the Lorna Breen Foundation, to help prevent suicides for all healthcare providers. They took this, and they're based in Virginia. They worked with Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia, got national legislation through the Senate and the House, signed by President Biden about a year ago, committing millions of dollars to help support the reduction of the stigma that physicians feel, and nurses and all healthcare clinicians feel, when they're feeling as though they're not doing their job well, that they have some particularly stigma around depression or other mental health issues. And now that they have a national movement now. I work tangentially with those folks. Corey Feist is the leader of this work right now. He's a wonderful person. And they're going around the country to get the state boards to change the way the questions are asked about whether you're capable to practice. Almost all hospitals and state boards in the past have asked you if you have ever had any kind of mental health problem. And if you answer yes, it can put your license at threat, it can put your job at risk, even though you're perfectly healthy. And and if somebody, it keeps people from seeking help because they don't want to be found out. So that's one level right there, that nationally things are happening. There's the organization, the National Academy of Medicine, part of the National Academy of Sciences. They've hosted many forums on this and have put together a 7-point plan on how to reduce burnout in healthcare organizations.
Did they fund that program? Did they have a funding for that program? They have a specific program how they solve that problem?
Well, they have high-level recommendations. They put out a 300-page book with these. They continue to refine that. The Surgeon General is very involved in this work. And many state and local medical societies are doing this work as well. Here in the Bay Area, actually, I help organize the Bay Area Physician Wellness Collaborative, where from 9 medical societies around the Bay Area, physicians come together and talk about opportunities to help reduce burnout in their experiences.
Very interesting. That's one of the thing is, when I come back, I will ask you. We're going to watch together. I'm going to do a presentation on the psychedelics and the mental health and the mathematics. How they connected together.
Yeah.
And after that, I come back and ask you what you do exactly for the organizations, and then what is your book is, or the author of the book, and then where they can buy that book, and your contribute, what kind of a consulting you do for things. Let me present this my topic. Can you just give me 1 second?
Sure.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to bring you into the side. Yeah, okay. We are on the side watching it. I call this is a special name I made it for them. It's called a fractal medicine. I'm going to play a video before that. If you don't mind, Paul, can you while I'm playing a video, could you please put your on the mute your phone, because it gets a echo.
Oh, sure.
I'm
Sure.
going
Hang
to.
on.
Thank you.
For mental relaxation, early human civilizations in the East practiced Buddha's teachings while in the West, they performed rituals. One place, they mastered the consciousness through meditation, and other place, they altered consciousness through psychedelics. But there is another alternative technique called consciousness hacking through technological innovation. A mathematical equation through virtual reality can offer and alter and master consciousness at the same time. A genius painter from Japan, a legendary scientist from Princeton University, and an engineer from IBM came from a different walks of life, from different times, made important contributions for consciousness hacking. Benoit Mandelbrot was hired by IBM to solve a nagging problem in the early days of telecommunications. The problem is a noise popping up while sending the data across telephone lines. Noise is an undesirable or unwanted signal that gets randomly added to the actual information carrying signal. Mandelbrot noticed a fixed pattern of noise repeating across the telephone lines irrespective of the distance the data traveled. Mandelbrot recollected seeing a similar idea before, a picture of a giant wave on a children's spiral notebook. The picture is the original painting from 18th century well-known Japanese artist Katsushika Hokusai. It is called the Great Wave of Kanagawa. Look at any part of the Great Wave, it looks very similar to the whole wave. The whole contains the parts. It looks counterintuitive, but the part also contains the whole. Their artistic expression gave rise to a new concept in mathematics called fractals. Mandelbrot discovered nature's fundamental unit repeated through a geometrical pattern. The same geometrical pattern is present everywhere in the clouds, seashores, trees, and even in the human bodies. The nervous system looks very similar to that of a lightning. The EKG of the heart signal is strikingly similar to that of a noise signal in telephone wires. If you further zoom in into the signal, the strange looking pattern emerges. The pattern is discovered by Mandelbrot, bears his name Mandelbrot set. The nature around you, the snowflakes, trees, mountains are built from these series of Mandelbrot sets. We can also observe Mandelbrot sets at the beginning of life in a woman's womb. The equation that governs the nature is spectacularly simple and displays the nature in exquisite details. Before the public understood the power of the Mandelbrot sets, Hollywood jumped in. The Star Trek movies with the fractals put the movie watchers in a trance. There is a different kind of a trance was described by an American botanist, a former New Age hippie, Terence McKenna. He frequently experimented with the psychedelic brew called ayahuasca. He chronicled his experiences through books and videos. Amazonian Indians consumed this brew on ceremonial occasions. Terence McKenna claims this brew produced visual and auditory hallucinations while his eyes were closed. He claimed his experiences profoundly changed his outlook on life.
Many of them, and they come pounding toward you, and they will stop in front of you and vibrate, but then they do a very disconcerting thing, which is they jump into your body. They jump into your body, and then they jump back out again. And the whole thing is going on in this very high-speed mode, where you're being presented with thousands of details per second, and you can't get a hold on, you say, my God, what's happening?
In recent studies by Johns Hopkins and New York University Langone Special Unit Psychedelic Medicine Center conducted studies with the psychedelic drug psilocybin in a controlled environment. The chemical compound in psilocybin is dimethyltryptamine, in short called DMT. The studies show a single dose of psilocybin dramatically reduces the depression with the subjects of research. Interestingly, the visual hallucinations the subjects describing look very similar to Mandelbrot fractals. In the years before, Albert Einstein published a theory of general relativity, a profoundly mind-bending way of looking at nature. Mass tells space-time how to curve, and space-time tells mass how to move. Gravity is not a force, it is an illusion created by the bodies moving in space-time curvature. Einstein deployed a very different branch of mathematics called non-Euclidean geometry. We don't experience non-Euclidean geometry in our everyday lives. American Airlines pilot explained this phenomena through a tricky example. The shortest route from Dallas to Hong Kong is first Dallas to Seattle, then Seattle to Alaska, then Alaska to Siberia, then Siberia to Mongolia, then Mongolia to Hong Kong. That is the shortest route. But you see on a flat map, it creates an illusion the Hong Kong is directly right across Dallas. But if you combine Einstein's non-Euclidean geometrical concepts with the Mandelbrot fractals, watching in a virtual reality devices, it is truly a technical wonder. It produces mind-feasting, kaleidoscoping patterns where all your visual channels are fully occupied. It puts you in a trance and gives you same bliss without inducing substances. The fractals are nature's artistic expressions. Now you are in tune with the nature. Welcome to 25 milligram DMT experience without a DMT. Consciousness hacking through technology is a mass mental relaxation technique for modern humans. Thank you for watching.
These are all educational purposes. I never took DMT or any other substances. This is for you can turn on the mute. You can take it out the mute button, Paul. So it's educational. You can jump in anytime if you have any questions or any comment. Please feel free to make it. It's a psychedelic mathematics. I'm going to talk about very quickly about psychedelics and how the mathematics work together. So if you see the DMT is a Schedule 1 drug, you cannot take it in. There is not a is not you cannot allow unless there is a special permission waiver for that. So DMT is a very controlled substance, a Schedule 1 drug. So what is the DMT produces? It produces. This is I gathered information from people like Terence McKenna and other scientists. This is the information. DMT produces audio visual stimulations, and then bliss, kind of a bliss it produces. How do you represent those kind of things? Very abstract subjects. How do you produce through the mathematics? That's a question, very funny question, but I tell you, this question was actually, there was a controversy when there was a thermometer was invented. People said that those times in 1600 was 10th century during the early civilizations, I think. They said that how can you quantify dampness, cold, wet, and hot? How can you? They didn't understand. They were saying that we cannot quantify those things. This is a controversy. People think that abstract things you cannot quantify. But in fact, that mathematics says something different. Science says something different. DMT level experience. There is different levels of experience in the DMT. If you take the dosage increases, that's on the left side is the energy increase. On the right side is on the x-axis is the information content. So as you increase the energy, dosage increases, the information content goes up. That is, what is information content? It is from Euclidean geometry to non-Euclidean geometry. That is information. I will explain to you what is Euclidean and non-Euclidean. Euclidean is a Greek mathematician. So the energy means this is the increasing the dosage from 5 milligrams to 25 milligrams, how it works. So this is a very interesting concept. So we can deduct what is Euclidean geometry. All the flat surfaces, zero, that flat surfaces are all zero. And then you have a sphere, that's a curvature zero, from a negative positive curvature to the negative curvature. Hyperbolic structures have a negative curvature. Negative curvature and the sphere curvature, those are all considered non-Euclidean geometry. That's most of the general Einstein's theory was done in the non-Euclidean geometry, explaining the gravity itself. So that's what I was talking about in the video. So the experience, we don't see the non-Euclidean geometry quite a bit. The reason is, I think civilization, as one of the Donald Hoffman says, that the reality may be filtered out from us from the beginning of the civilization. Maybe savannas of Africa, beginning of humans, could see more colors, more structures much more vividly than us now, because we are filtering out a lot of information. Reality may not be the fundamental, that we may not be having the complete access to it. At the 5 level, very low level DMT levels, you can the colors get like your normal. You see the standard definition to the high definition TV. That's a difference. At the low level of DMT, all the colors get exposed. You get the micro level of view of the systems. So it's like a difference between standard television and the high definition television. That's what you see, that you get the clear. But when you go into the next level, 15 milligram level, you see a different kind of things. You see the structures. It's still Euclidean geometry, the two-dimensional geometry. Euclidean geometry is all two-dimensional geometries, x and y axis. So in the two-dimensional geometries, still layer by layer they attach it. Particularly Jackson Pollock is a sanguine trial, that is a art. Actually, it is a repetition of the fractals. In fact, it is if Jackson Pollock art is actually, if you see from a 10 feet away or 100 feet away, it looks same exactly. Any part of it looks exactly similar to the whole picture. That is a power of the Jackson Pollock fractals. The other one, I did a programming on fractals on that particular subject. And then MC Usher program, the illusion of the steps, that is also very part of the high dimensional. You see quite a bit moving them, and is like you see that like a entire walls, entire town is with the 15 milligram DMT, the entire place that you see around is pasted around, complete these kind of visuals. It's like a high luxury hotel with all the art. You don't see anything else other than art. It's everywhere. That is the little bit of next level of experience you get. Then you get into the 25 mg experience. That is where things change. That's where Euclidean geometry moves into the non-Euclidean geometry, which is the hypercube. That is a DMT high levels is a hypercube. It is a hyper room, hyperspace. Hyperspace is still, we are not really hyperspace. We are simulating the hyperspace. In the hyperspace, strange things happen, because you can put a lot more content of information. My room may look small, but the moment I leave one step, I take one step from my place away, it's impossible to return back to the same original place. That is the complexity in hyperspace increases exponential. That's the strangeness of the mathematics. The mathematics behind the hyperspace is that's why virtual reality people, that you create a room there, that's one reason, that's they're simulating the hyperspace. That is the power of the DMT. When they see 25 milligrams, all of them are moving in hyperspace. So you don't see that in the regular world. So then these negative curvatures of the negative hyperbolic structures moving around you, it's a new experience for you. It is a mind feasting, that one. That is So that's what you see in a lot of these VR virtual reality rooms that see that they're simulating the basically psychedelic VR simulation is a hyperbolic space. They're simulating that so that you can create a mathematics through hyperbolic through mathematics. You can literally create that technology is simulating the DMT experience, visual stimulation, audio stimulation. It's doing already. So VR, by setting up the VR, you can really create that audio visual stimulations perfectly good. In fact, the next level, the other one is a bliss factor. How do you create a bliss mathematics? So neurons, thought itself, there was a school of thought. I mean, thought itself is a geometry, is a place and time. It's a thought itself is a construction of the geometrical pattern it does. So there was in 2014, there is a stunning discovery by Moses from Mary Britt Moser and Edward Moser, husband and wife team. They're a Norwegian professor of Kavli Institute of Science, Neuroscience. They are professors. They were awarded a Nobel Prize finding a special cells in the brain. Those are called in recent days, like 8 years ago, right? 9 years ago. It is called place cells and grid cells. The name is not that great. These are the GPS cells in the brain. It will tell you where they are located. Suppose you are going to the New York, Manhattan, you wanted to see Empire State Building, you say you come to 34th Street and then 8th Avenue, the 5th, 4th Avenue, 5th Avenue, that is where Empire State Building is. Grid cells gives you the approximation of Manhattan, and the place cells tell you where to go exactly, that corner of that place. These are the cells. They're the time cells. The time cells tell you the lapse of the time, passing of time. So they discovered the grid cells and place cells. They were awarded Nobel Prize in 2014. That's really changes. It tells you, they were saying that this actually, you can take that picture of the thought process itself, thought itself in the holographic cubic. It is almost that hyperbolic cube that he thought. That is an actual picture of the neurons in the geometry, in three-dimensional geometry, in a holographic system. So the brain could be hologram. That's what one of the proposal is that. So these are 50 neurons placed in that one, actually. The cognitive spaces, that if you see the honeybees, the way they do the structure, the what do you call combs, honeycombs, they're octagonal spaces. That is a very efficient space to create. So in the brain itself, we create octagonal cognitive spaces. These are geometrical patterns, geometry we create. So what happens? What is a bliss? Bliss is when you do meditation, these GPS cells, the function goes down. They're lowering the function of the grid cells and place cells and grid cells. They lower the function. That means you feel like you're lost in space and time. You're creating a meditation. Through meditation, you're creating lost in space and time. That's a bliss mathematics. It's science, mathematics and science together. So you can create through meditation, lowering the function of the grid cells. That creates that feeling of lost in space. So you can quantify the bliss factor, lowering the place in the time grid cells. So it's very important. It's nothing to do with the religion. I'm a Hindu. Part of Hindu religion is yoga and meditation, but it doesn't need to be that way. It is just meditation is a prayer, basically. So it doesn't need to be such a dry thing that I want to say. The all bliss is just a mathematical expression or a science expression. But David Bohm is a quantum physicist and Krishnamurti is a philosopher. They had a lot of discussions about it. He had a very conundrum in the quantum physics. David Bohm expressly created a new concept called implicate order. What he says that is very interesting. Thought is actually a state that is an impure process. A thought is an aberration of the consciousness. It comes from a disturbance, a disturbance of the a consciousness, a thoughtless state, it's created. Thought is out of that thought comes up. It's like a swirl in the ocean of consciousness. So that's what David Bohm says, that thought is an actionable. The thought is to some extent is not a is a nirvana, is like a no thoughts at all. It's a pure mind of bliss. That is implicate order, his theory of implicate order that he proposed to David Bohm, a quantum physicist. So there's ontology expression there. There still is a mystery there, but it is very interesting. So you DMT, I spoke with some DMT, the trip executives, that they created this actually meditation program, DMT, kind of experience of fractals, psychedelic fractals on the VR platform. So you must check it out. Non-Euclidean geometry, you can see a lot of those things. It's called TRIP, TRIPP. So thanks to those guys. Those, what is the mathematics? The one of the physicists that I'm a fan of, Dr. Eugene Wigner, is a physicist. He said that the unreasonable efficiency of mathematics in science is a gift we neither understand nor deserve. That's what is there's a mystery behind it. It's very surprising. Mathematics gave the tools for us to really understand the mental health and other things, that what is the brain is itself. So it is there is a worldwide mental mess right now. We are 1 billion people going through mental things. We need a solution. The stigma, the long COVID, Dr. Paul DeChant is talking about, is a long COVID. These are the manifesting the violence and suicides, all kinds of things is doing. Not only healthcare professionals across the world. I'm talking with my family members and friends across the world. They're all feeling some weird stuff. I don't know why. We don't know exactly. We need to really figure out this one. We need to solve. Mental health has to be addressed at the highest levels of policy, in my view. So until that, we have a small solution. We can create this mental health. We create these hyperbolic structures you watch in the VR, and then see that go through the meditation program through VR is really can solve a lot of problems. To some extent, it does without going through a psilocybin in the water. We cannot put the psilocybin in the water. So the other alternative is this one. Yes, thank you for watching. It is a mental health crisis we need to solve. We will ask. So there is a 25 DMT. Without a DMT, we get the mindful meditation. You can do 5-10 minutes a day. It may give you relaxation. Let me bring Dr. Paul DeChant. Paul, what do you think of it?
Well, it's fascinating. I don't. I can see. I don't understand, but I think I can sense the connection between all of that, and and there is that it underlies. I even see it in organizational structures and how we can align organizational structures to help people live more full and beneficial lives. How we can make healthcare workplaces healthier for the people who are working in them.
I think that one of the organizational structures that they need to adopt this mental health policy. They have to make it as a one of the things is that one of the what is that Mother Teresa effect. It's called Mother Teresa effect. It is called. Let me turn it off. Yeah, Mother Teresa effect. It is called. It is actually named after Mother Teresa. When you have spirituality, little bit, so that the burnout will go down, is actually can come down. The burnout, feeling of burnout, at least there is a possible reduction in that process. But we need to do a organization structure. What do you suggest, Paul? For all these organizations, hospitals, healthcare plans, healthcare organizations, what they need to adopt?
Well, at the core of it, people need to care about each other. And leaders need to care about everyone involved in who they lead. There's some very good work out there about concepts around conscious capitalism, how we can actually make the world a better place through business when the businesses are organized and led in a way where everyone in the organization actually is encouraged to and truly cares about each other. There's some great books about this. One is by a fellow named Bob Chapman. He runs a heavy industry manufacturing conglomerate with 80 plants around the world. But his people are some of the happiest people who make some of the most positive contributions to their communities, because his philosophy is that everybody matters, and everyone we connect with we should treat as though we care about them the same way we care about our close friends and family. And he actually put that philosophy into work in his organization, spread across 3,000 people in 17 countries with 80 manufacturing plants. And he's got a book called Everybody Matters, the amazing power of treating everyone like your close friends or family.
What is
Uh,
his name again? What is
his
his
name
name?
is Bob Chapman, Chapman. He's very worried about burnout. He's actually worried about burnout in healthcare. I've had him come and speak at some national healthcare conferences, and yeah, he's amazing. But it's that same concept, and we exude it in healthcare. We go into healthcare because we want to care about people, and what happens though is sometimes we can be very caring about our patients, but very harsh on each other. With some of it comes from the idea that it's just so important we know everything as much as we possibly can, and use that knowledge well enough that we don't make a mistake. We have to learn intensively, and when somebody makes a mistake, the tendency is to try to shame and blame them rather than try to understand what's wrong with the way the system was designed, that a well-intentioned person ends up making a mistake. And that's really the core issue, is redesigning the way the systems are designed so everyone who's working well-intentioned actually is successful. And yet it's too easy for us to fall into that shame and blame mentality instead.
Yesterday, I interviewed a radiation oncologist. She was saying that we should have a dinner with neighbors once a week at least. That's what she says. That would help us.
Yeah.
So, that's very interesting suggestion she was giving. What do you think of what is your organization, Paul? Tell me about what you are doing for
Oh,
the
so I work now
organizations and what is
as
a
an
book. You wrote a book, and
yeah,
tell me
yeah.
about the book.
So I work as an independent contractor. I just have my own LLC, but I do like to work with many different organizations. So I value the independence to be able to connect with people all over. With this whole concept that the problem is the workplace, not the worker, and that we can fix workplaces. We can create great workplaces where people want to be and where the organization thrives because we're all aligned and working well together. I call it beating burnout and building the bottom line at the same time. Healthcare right now is in a huge crisis. Their staffing is down by 20, 30%. If you're a patient in a hospital, you have to be careful, not because the workers aren't good, but because there aren't enough workers to cover all the patient need. And so people have to really pay attention. And so with all that financial stress, hospitals are even having more trouble hiring new people. And they think if we reduce workload to reduce burnout, we're going to lose finance. We can't keep the hospital going. We can't keep the doors open. We can't keep the lights on. In fact, by redesigning work, we can create capacity to do all that. That's a lot of what my book speaks about. Here's a copy of it right here.
Yeah,
It is called Preventing Suicide and
must read
Burnout,
the book.
Curing the Chaos and Returning Joy to the Practice of Medicine. And it goes through explaining the basics of burnout, what it is, what the drivers are. It talks about how each of those manifests through the different aspects of what physicians deal with in terms of their stresses, in terms of things like the electronic health record, the computerized medical record, and how it's added additional burden. It talks about just the chaos of workflows and complexity there. It talks a lot about leadership, because leadership is so important in reducing burnout. Most of 2/3 of the book is all about what's driving burnout. We spend about a third of the book talking about what you can do. Vignettes about what other organizations have done, how to take care of yourself, what these management systems that actually create this alignment and empowerment can do, and how to put those into place. And then we wrap up with a chapter about what you can do, whether you're a leader in an organization, a board of directors member in a hospital, or a clinician on the front line, a doctor or a nurse on the front line. With each of those roles, what are the things that you can do that can help you personally? So we try to present this as a way to help people understand what's going on. And then from there, they can apply that to their particular challenges and situations.
Must read book. You know, you have a other side that I want to mention. You're a compassionate human being. You're doing a homeless shelter people. You're providing a free clinic, free medical clinic. Tell me about a little bit about that. You know.
Yeah, and I've done it off and on throughout my career in different ways. Most recently, I'm on the board of directors of Shelter Inc., which is here in Contra Costa County, where we both live. It is a homeless services provider that includes shelter as well as a whole array of wraparound services. And so that I bring my executive expertise to support that in that way. In the past, I've also helped organize or attend low cost or clinics for homeless people. And I've done a number of trips and worked in different places around the world. Probably the most gratifying was when I was a med student. I spent 3 months in Liberia in West Africa
Really?
before Liberia went into its crisis of all its civil wars. But just that opportunity, I worked harder probably than I did in much of the rest of my career, but I had much less burnout because it was all focused on just really caring for people, connecting to people. It didn't have all the bureaucracy and other challenges involved.
Thank you. It's truly an honor. You have a wonderful experience. Is truly an honor for me to talk with you, Paul.
Yeah, well, if people are interested in connecting with me, I have a website. It's pauldechantmd.com. You can just Google my name. You can find me there. And you can email me, paul@pauldechantmd. So I would really look forward to talking to anybody else who has an interest in this and would like to follow up.
If you could hang around 1 minute after the broadcast, I can talk with you 1 minute. Then
Sure.
we can do. Thank you. So thank you so much. It's truly an honor. Thank you. Let me just.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.